What's up guys, Noah here with CustomRCMods. In today's episode, I've got yet another quad build to be showing you, and this one is from a new class. As you can see here, it is the 95mm 2.5-inch Cinewhoop. And honestly, I've gotten really excited about flying Cinewhoops recently, especially as I've upgraded to the DJI digital FPV system. So I've got my diatone Taycan right here, as you can see, and this quad has been so much fun just because you can get really up into those nitty-gritty tight spaces with absolute confidence. It is such a blast, especially with the clarity of the digital camera on there. It is just, it is next world fun. If you guys enjoy, looking at new spaces in different ways, you definitely got to try this. And this diatone Taycan was a lot of fun, especially with the fact that you can add a GoPro to the top of it, like my Hero 8 or a GoPro Session. You can get really good production quality footage. However, flying in tighter spaces means that you don't really need something this big, especially if you're not going to have that payload. On 6S, this Cinewhoop has almost as much vertical as one of my 5-inch quads does, which is quite crazy if you think about it. So that's where this quad comes in here. This is a Beta 95X, sorry, I have the 75X, the 95X V3. This is kind of a custom build, kind of not. I'll get into that in a second. But essentially, it's 2.5-inch props rather than 3-inch props. Obviously, it's not going to carry your entire, 120 gram GoPro 8 or something like that. However, it can run a naked GoPro, one that's decased. It just has the essential components, the lens, the board, no battery, that's run off the internal flight battery on the quad here. And you still get the same quality footage. It's just a lot lighter. I really haven't gotten into that yet. However, that's what this is designed for. But this camera right up front is more than useful enough just for me personally as I fly, just for fun, because of course any of the higher end production work that I do for my photography company would be with the diatone Taycan anyways. So this one is more just purely for flying around, having fun. So again, that kind of begs the question, why not go smaller? And this is really, I'd say, the sweet spot for flying digital micro quads, just because you still have a lot of good thrust here with the 2.5-inch props. These are 1207 motors on here, so you can carry the Caddx Vista digital system with ease, and you can still almost get freestyle performance out of it. Again, you have the advantages of the Cinewhoop. I've got low rates on here, and I've got these nice prop guards, so it's fairly non-intimidating to fly around with. And overall, I just like it because, again, you can get into even tighter spaces than with the Taycan. Here's a size comparison if you guys are interested. Again, we've got the Taycan here, and we've got the 95X here, so looks like it's about 2/3 the size, which kind of makes sense if you're doing the proportions all out just like that. And I'm really excited to show you around this thing. So how did I get this thing on my hands? I actually saw an ad on rcgroups.com, as I often do, for a digital Beta 95X selling at like less than $200. Now you do the math on this thing, and that is a really good deal, especially with the Caddx Vista system in it, which obviously is like $150 by itself. So you're getting a really good quad, for like $20 or $30 if you already have, the Vista. So I get it a few days later, and the guy seems chill or whatever, and I've come to find out that I may or may not have gotten scammed, kinda, halfway, sorta. Most of the electronics work fine. However, the Vista system that was originally in here, this one had the Nebula camera, actually has the bind button broken off. You might be able to see that there. Hopefully, maybe there's a button that's normally right there on the left side or on the right side of the USB-C port there, and it's been ripped off, meaning that you cannot use this Vista because you simply cannot bind it to the DJI goggles. So unfortunately, I've had to put this project on hold for a little bit. I've been in an interesting, kind of conversation, little battle with the previous seller who denies any of this. I don't know. Typical scammer behavior in my opinion. I'm not going to get into that. If you want a full story on that, I'd be happy to make a video on that a little bit later. But, push came to shove, and I just pushed that off to the side, not expecting to get any money in return back from that, just because, again, he is denying all of that as it is and saying that I broke it and blamed him and all that nasty stuff. So I'm letting that be for now. Anyway, I went ahead and purchased a brand new Vista with the DJI camera, which you guys might know is a much better camera than the Nebula is, just because It has the DJI electronics in it, and it has a larger sensor. It's not in the nano form factor. It's in the micro 19 by 19, I believe, millimeter form factor there as well. So I went ahead and replaced that, as well as I went ahead and bought this brand new frame, because the frame that it came with, the V2 frame, it wasn't in the best condition, honestly. There's a lot of things broken with it. A lot of the struts, kind of typical whoop breakages. So I went ahead and set that aside. This was only like 15 bucks for a brand new frame, and it is the V3. So you can see it looks a little bit different, and it is a lot stronger. These spokes are a lot thicker, and they have both vertical and horizontal plastic for greater durability. There is a carbon fiber structure in the frame here as well, meaning that it is going to be a lot more durable, especially for the motors. They're nice and firm, whereas a lot of whoop frames, especially in the 75 and 85 millimeter class, and of course the 65 millimeter class as well, that simply just flex around and get caught in the prop guards, which is somewhat annoying, but I'm glad to see on this larger drone that they have that. Now, the same stack is in there, which is the one stock on the 95X V2. That is the F405 board with the 16 amp 32-bit ESC. So it's two separate boards on here, kind of precariously stacked. Just because, you know, on the pusher style quad, it makes it so that the motors face downwards. The motor wires are kind of at the top of the motor rather than resting on the carbon on the bottom there. So it's precarious. I had to put the ESC on top of the flight controller, which is a little bit interesting. And then, of course, there's the little micro USB port hole right there on the bottom. So it's actually designed to go that way as well. So that's all the same stuff that it's shipped with, as well as these motors, which are actually upgraded in themselves. So they are the RCMpower 1207 5000 kV motors, and if you guys have been following the channel for any length of time, you know that I really like the RCMpower motors. They're some of the smoothest motors I've ever flown on my digital ultimate build that you kind of see back there. Those teal motors are really awesome, and these motors have a lot of performance to them as well that you'll see in this upcoming flight footage. So now let's go ahead and talk about these props here. I'm not totally sure what they are. I know they're Gem Fan, but they are not the best for ducted flight. I don't have any other 2.5-inch props at this time, but what I quickly learned with my Diatone Taycan, which had some similar props with it, these are super, super loud. You'll see in the flight footage, I'm actually going to have to close my door as I narrate the indoor flying, just because it is so stinking loud, and it, you know, deafening, which really takes away from the entire Cinewoop flying experience, where you're trying to, you know, be inconspicuous and fly around people and make them feel safe when they have this racing drone, you know, flying around them. So that's about it for that. I have a Crossfire Nano in there. You can see the little linear antenna sticking straight up there. I was kind of, you know, it's kind of an afterthought, I guess. Most of the time, I just slap an Immortal T on there and call it a day. However, the Immortal T is just a little bit too wide for this situation. It sticks off the sides of the quad, which would not be good, especially if you're trying to hit some really, really tight gaps. So I went for the linear antenna just like that, and that sits on there. I'm gonna have to do something about that here in the future. This is a 4S quad, so I am running a Tattoo 4S 650 milliamp hour pack. I believe this is a 75C discharge rate on here, so that's not bad at all. I mean, I think that this is on the higher end of the capacity for these quads, but I've had a lot of these from my Vortex 150 that I just recently sold off, so now I'm using it on my Cinewoop. It definitely is taking away a little bit from the overall flight performance and agility. However, the benefits are really found in the flight time, which is really, really awesome. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start transitioning into the flying portion of this segment. Unfortunately, it's super snowy and windy outside today, so we're just going to go ahead and fly around my apartment here, and we'll see how that goes. Thankfully, even with these larger Cinewoops like this one right here, you can really still maneuver around tight spaces very, very easily. So we'll hopefully still have a lot of fun flying here indoors. I don't have any of my roommates here present at the time, so we won't be annoying them. And I don't know, we're just going to go ahead and see how this goes. Let's go ahead and plug everything in and get to the flight footage. Alright guys, so it's time to go ahead and get into this flight footage. Now we're taking off with the 95X V3 build, and the first thing that I've noticed is the amount of control that I have with this large quad in this fairly small space, and obviously that's due to the rates. These are 300 degrees per second, which is what I run on the Taycan as well, so just Cinewoops universally tend to fly with lower rates, just because again you're not doing anything overly snappy. You don't need that maneuverability. You really are focusing on getting smooth cinematic shots. This thing still has a good amount of power though. There's a lot of throttle up for grabs. You'll see that right here actually has a lot of good throttle dexterity to it because I can get into the ceiling fan area and play with the throttle very easily, but if I spike it, I'm going to get all the throttle response that I want out of it, which is a really nice thing once you learn the throttle curve. So we're in the bathroom here. As you can see, this is something that I really noticed was interesting. Bam, right there. You can see after those warm hues are saturating the DJI camera sensor, it tends to get a little wonky. I don't know if there's any way to avoid that, but I kind of noticed that and thought it was interesting. Anyway, why not have a little apartment tour while we're at it here? There's the front door where we're at right there, and this is the common area, the kitchen. We've got our trash right there, and you can literally see everything with this digital system, which makes the flying experience so much more enjoyable, something I really haven't experienced yet indoors. You can see the common space here, where we hang out, watch TV, all that sort of thing, getting all under the coffee table there as well, and then of course going into my bedroom, and of course got my little bedroom here and my bathroom. There's my workshop area, workbench, consolidated. We've got all my quads, my two 5-inches, and my other digital builds and some micros. There's me, of course. We were just sitting and talking about this quad, and now we're going into my bathroom, the official vibe zone of the apartment. And yeah, it's an interesting experience there. Almost crashed, and now we're going back in here. I wanted to go ahead and show you my 3D printer room. I guess I can't really use any of the other rooms at this time because the other room that we're about to head to right now is actually the guest room. So we have a lot of people come over periodically, so I like to go ahead and keep my 3D printer out of that room there as well. We've got our laundry room and our little furnace room there as well. And of course, the guest room. Same kind of setup, we just don't have a roommate in here. So I've got 2 other roommates this semester. But we got the guest room here. We can have friends stay over. It's been a really nice thing to have there as well. Here's the bathroom. Got, of course, the shower and all those other nice things. It's really nice to have your own little bathroom on your little room in your apartment. So yeah, that's interesting. There's the current setup of the apartment. It's really interesting. I mean, I think it was really fitting to be flying the Sinope around, getting smooth cinematic shots. I thought I'd go ahead and give you a little tour. So back to how this quad is flying. There's just so much control, and you can see right here, you know, I'm obviously the one thing about Betaflight is that it's not that great when it comes to impacting things. That's why a lot of tiny wheel pilots don't fly Betaflight. They fly Silverware, they fly the Inductrix boards, because Betaflight's gyro settings go crazy when you hit a wall or something like that. So as long as you stay out of the walls, you're probably going to be fine, but most of the time those prop guards are there just simply to make sure that you don't damage anything you hit, not to keep you up and flying. But yeah, it's always a little bit trivial. We're about 3 minutes 30 seconds, I believe, into the flight. I haven't really been running a timer or anything like that, but the flight time has been very impressive overall with this quad. I think I don't even know where we're at. I think it was like 4 minutes and 30 seconds was the end of this flight, which is really, really impressive for such a small quad, running huge brushless motors and carrying such a large payload. So yeah, that's about wrapping it up for this flight. I ran this battery down to like 14.2 or 3 volts. Really conservative for 4S, honestly. Normally I run it about 14 volts or below when I flew it on 5-inch, but it's really nice. Low current draw means that you can reap a lot of the advantages that this slower high payload quad has. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap it up for the video. This was a lot of fun to fly, even in the small constrained space that we are flying it in. There's something different about flying a Sinope. Maybe it's just the kind of relaxed nature, the low rate, you know, you're not going super fast, you're not doing any flippy floppies or anything that requires a lot of, you know, attention to pay. It's just a lot of fun. You can really take in what you're flying around, and obviously the digital system really helps with that. Obviously very interesting to fly with the digital system here indoors. I've never flown a drone that really had the digital system just because I'm flying the 75mm whoops and things like that in this space. So that's really awesome and definitely a huge draw to the Sinope. Obviously, I couldn't put this drone through all its paces in here, so we're definitely going to take this out in a later video and fly this all around my college campus. It's going to be a drone that's going to be a lot easier to fly in an urban environment just because it doesn't have that intimidation factor that the 5-inch drones have. So hopefully I'll be able to go ahead and get some of that content that to you very, very soon. If you guys have any questions on this quad or FPV and RC in general, I'd be happy to address those down in the comment section below. And if you'd like your questions answered a little bit quicker, I'd recommend that you join my Discord server, where I will be hanging out as well as many other kind members of this community, ready to help you and share ideas, things like that. I also have all my social media links down in the description as well, so follow me on there. I'll be doing a lot more updates in between my videos of what's going on in the Custom RC Mods world. With that said, I'm out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.